Podcast for Sci-Fi in with Clay Williams. Clay, we saw you at MegaCon a few years back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you had an awesome product that I probably visited your booth, I don't know, 600-700 times that weekend.
Wander back and forth there.
Yeah. Now, you have some cool stuff, not just one product, because you can do a number of things, but the one thing that I thought that drew my eye to your booth was the Thor-ish hammer, the ThorHammers.com.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about, you make this thing, tell me a little bit about this kind of process that you do.
Well, basically there's a couple of different versions that I do. One is a full metal version, and that requires, I actually take a solid block of metal and we CNC machine it down to the rough shape, and then I have another CNC machine here that I do all the fine detail work on. And then the handles come in various styles. I've got some that I cast out of aluminum using the lost foam casting, or I make them out of wood, or I do them out of just different composite materials. And there's just any number of ways you can have these things made up. Each one's a one-of-a-kind custom.
And you have some that are heavy, some that are not so heavy. What's your heaviest hammer that you have? Because that impressed me, by the way. There was a nice heavy hammer that I picked up, or tried to pick up. I don't know if you'd say that.
The heaviest one that I've done is I have a solid steel one, which I have one here, and that one weighs in at about 65, depending on the steel I use, it can weigh 75 pounds. So that's pretty good. And I've done them out of titanium, solid titanium too. And that one, surprisingly enough, that one only weighed about 45 pounds. So the normal weight for the solid aluminum ones weigh 25 to 27 pounds. And then I do the resin versions, and I can get those heavier if I want, and those I can get up to about 19 pounds.
And that's not something that a general cosplayer want to be walking around with, because that's heavy. You make these hammers, they are probably the best hammer that I've seen, and I've been to cons all across the nation, and you've got a great product. And we're going to see what that product can do here in a little bit, just for fun. Okay. So tell me the other stuff that you create, because you not only create hammers, you can do just about anything that you could think of.
I pretty much try to not say no to any projects. I do a lot of commission work for people. I do a lot of the hammers for bodybuilding competitions, but I'm doing some tridents for a bodybuilding competition. They want to give them away as awards to the winners. I do body sculpting. I'll do Predator stuff. I've done full-blown Predator costumes. I do all kinds of things, swords and daggers and knives. I got Ryan Rowe from Forge and Fire just moved in with me, and we're going to be doing some stuff together. Iron Man stuff, woodworking, art pieces. I'm really starting to get away from all the fantasy stuff and do some nice artwork now too. That's going to be higher end artwork. I have some stuff in some different galleries now too, and that's kind of the direction I'm heading right now.
Excellent. Yeah. So I saw a little bit when we came in that nice turtle display that had different woods in it and that you created. You create that. You got a couple of machines. Let's take a look at this machine here. What type of machine is this one? What does that do?
Okay, this one over here is my CNC machine, and this is where I do all the fine, small detail work on it. It's not heavy enough and robust enough to do all the roughing work, but I can do all the fine engraving, all the fine little knot work, all the little engraving, the fine details on it. I can do that on this machine. And also on this machine, I can do just about any other material. I've got a hammer over here that I did completely out of wood, so I can do that. So if it's, lighter duty stuff, I can do it on this machine, but the heavier stuff I really can't do on this machine.
Copy that. And you also have this other machine. This is a big machine here. And it a little something special there. I like this. That is nice. Yeah. The Podcast for Sci-Fi logo, that is something to smile about. That brought a smile to my face. Sure. This is a little different though. What is this?
The other machine, it's a 100-watt CO2 laser. And what that can do is I can literally almost engrave on any material. I can't cut metal and I can't cut glass, but pretty much anything else I can cut. I have a certain thickness requirement that I can go to that I can cut, but I've cut 1-inch thick plexiglass with it. But I can literally engrave anything on it. I can do tombstones, I can engrave on granite, I can engrave on marble, glass, metal with a spray that I put on it, the resins, the plastics, wood, pretty much any other material that's not a metal material, I can do on this machine.
And you do some other type of casting, really. You got, what is this?
That's what it's called. Life casting is what it is. And what you do is you actually do a mold of the person. You go in and you actually do a mold using skin-safe materials. You can use either alginate, which is what the dentist puts in your mouth to make your mold, or you can do a skin-safe silicone. And then you take that and you put a mother mold over that, which is usually a plaster bandage to go over that. And I've had people do these life casting, but they put the plaster directly on the skin. Never do that. That'll burn you. But anyway, then I take that and I take that back to my studio and I create the finished piece with it. I've done them for the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, for Kai Green, Irish Kyle, all the heavy hitters in the international bodybuilding world. I've done pieces for them, and I've done just custom pieces, and they're art pieces, literally art pieces. I've done them out of solid metal. I've done them out of glass. I've got a couple pieces out of cast glass. So there's no limit to what you can do. A lot of people go, what's your media? And I go, what do you got? I use anything. Like, I got this piece of rope here that I dug up off the beach off of Hurricane, Matthew. That I'm going to do something with it. I don't know what, but I'm going to do something with it. So, yeah, I don't limit myself to any one particular media at all. I try to, every piece I make, I try to make sure it's individual, so the end user, the client, has that one-of-a-kind piece, so they can say, there's not another piece like this in the world. And that's what I strive to do in all my work, and I gotta give glory to God for everything, because He gave me the talent to do all this. So without that, I couldn't do all this stuff. So
building the hammers is kind of a unique piece, because I see all the things here that you have, in the shop to build it. Tell us a little bit about how the handles. You've got different styles of handles. You have one here made of leather. Now tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the leather one, it's actually one that I created on my own, and I wanted to try to replicate the look of the Thor handle, where it has the rings on it and the spacers in between it, but I didn't want it to be exactly the same. So what I did is I take leather washers, actually, and I soak them in water for months sometimes. Depends on how long I want before I use them. And then I take and I bend some aluminum washers to the little angle that I've got, and then I have a steel rod, a threaded rod. And what I do is I'll stack a number of these leather washers, and then aluminum washer, leather washers, aluminum washer, and it starts off at about 2 foot long, and then I tighten this bolt down and compress it and compress it and compress it, and it gets down to about half the size. All this water squirting out. It's a messy process, And I had to really refine the process, because as I tightened it down, the tighter it got, the rings wanted to twist on there and come out of alignment. So I had to keep that V, so I had to make a jig to set these in to keep them all in alignment. So then I tightened them down and I let it dry. I just put it off to the side, let it dry for a few days till it's completely dry. Then I compress it more. Then I let it dry again. Then I saturate it with a glue, which is I do a mixture of basically Elmer's glue and water. And then I saturate it with that, and then I compress it down as far as I can compress it until I can't turn it anymore. And then I let that dry. Then I have to take it to my sander, and I have a 2x72 knife grinding sander there. And then I have to sand all those leather rings down and all the aluminum rings, because the aluminum rings stand about a half-inch proud on each side, and I got to sand all those down, and then I sand them nice and clean. And then basically I polish that handle up, and then I have the threaded rod on the end, so when I put that in, I literally screw that into the head, and then I fill it with resin, so it's not coming out.
Gotcha. So, yeah, that was impressive. Now you work with the leather, obviously. You've got this wooden chair. This thing is it's like built to sit in. Better than some chairs that are sold in stores. But you made this chair. It's out of wood, but it's like it's natural wood. It's not like really refined necessarily, is it?
Right. That one started off, and I used to make tables like that. There's one of the small tables I made. That's one of the first ones I made there. And I had all kinds of different ones, and I started with this piece, and it was going to be a table. And so I took and I had the slab that I was going to use for the table, and I was tired, so I went and I just had the slab there, and I went over and I just sat on the slab, and then I went, wait a minute. And then I ran out to the woods and grabbed all kinds of different pieces of wood and started putting it together, and I fit it together where it was comfortable. I made sure it was comfortable, and I put a little table on the side so you can set your drink on it, and you literally walk up onto this chair and sit down on it, and everybody that sits on it thinks it's amazing. I built this chair over 30 years ago.
You have another piece, a hammer here. Now, this is set in some kind of stone that appears to be stone. If I touch it, it might be something different, but it's not just a normal hammer and set in stone. You may not be able to pull this hammer out unless you say so, right?
That's it. Only the worthy can pull this one out. I mean, this is one we had at MegaCon a couple years ago. I think you saw it. And we had people lined up to try to pull this thing out. We were given photo opportunities, and we let the kids pull it out.
Right.
But their dads would come up. Ain't happening. The girlfriends would come up and they could pull it out, but the dads, not happening.
Yeah.
And they're like so frustrated because they couldn't figure it out. And it's kind of neat because, you know, it's got a little secret to it, you know, but it's only the worthy can pull it out.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. That's pretty awesome. This is the fun part where we start hammering, right?
This is fun. I have a lot of people ask me, say, can you use these?
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple videos on YouTube that says, yeah, but we're really going to show them now.
We're going to find out
Yeah.
if they're real, if we can really use them, and what happens to the stuff when you do.
When you do. That's
All right.
it.
Excellent. All right, let's get started. Let's do this. Hammer, look at this.
This is my friend, Dave. Dave, you're giving it to a worthy cause.
And this is the aftermath of the Thor hammer and all of the carnage that we saw tonight. And as you can tell, there's not much left of the competition. Look here at the details. There's not anything wrong with the Thor hammer. Will you take the ThorHammers.com challenge?